Oh, hello, hello, and I am live. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Oh, can you believe the last day in December? Yes, I can't believe it. It's already New Year's Eve. Wow, where did the year go? But it's always very exciting to look forward to a new year. So, thank you all for spending a little bit of time with me this afternoon. Oh, I'm getting notifications, yes, that I'm live. I always like to double check, as I often say, I'm a one-man band here, so I just have to double check that yes, I am live. Oh, let's double check that volume. Yes, yes, there I am. Fabulous. Once again, yes, we are live at the Janome Sewing Machines Facebook page. That's Janome America. And we're live at Janome Canada's Facebook page, Janome America's YouTube channel, and the Janome HQ YouTube channel, which is our Janome Canada YouTube channel, almost at 10,000 subscribers, which I'm very excited about, because that Janome HQ YouTube channel I started after our COVID started, and then we needed a way to get more in touch with our Janome audience. So that YouTube channel was created, and we started doing all the lives to again share more Janome love. So hello everyone. Oh, excellent. My sister Deb is here. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Yes, I am Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome Canada, and I'm coming to you live from my palatial estate here in Collingwood, Ontario. I'm about 2 hours north of Toronto, and I'm back live to share with you that, oh yes, maybe you were just like me, frantically in your sewing room, getting ready for the holidays. Can you believe Christmas was already a week ago? It seems like so long ago. So much happens all the time. But yes, then I'll flip around the camera and let's say, oh, you're left with all these little scraps left over from, Christmas fabric, or, the projects I'm going to share today could really be done in any fabric. It doesn't have to be Christmas fabric, but I figured we need to get our sewing rooms back in order for the new year, to start a whole new year of sewing. So let me flip around here and flip the camera. Oops. Let's see. I always have to think a minute to do this because it looks different on my phone than it does on my computer, of course. So here we are. Yes. Now, once again, I am. Where is Celine? Mary Ella asks. Yes, as I mentioned the other week, our fabulous Celine, Janome Canada educator, normally does the Tuesday Facebook Live. Yes, but in the last month, she has been very busy doing some behind the scenes work for Janome Canada, doing a lot of translation. Celine lives in Montreal. She is French, and she does all the translation for Janome Canada, translating English documents into French and vice versa. So she's been very busy doing some translation for our Janome dealers specifically, which we'll share a little bit more about. It's been some big projects coming up for the new year. So that's where Celine has been. So that's why I have stepped in. And once again, here I am on the fabulous Janome CM17. And again, using up all of those little scraps for Christmas primarily, but and then this way too, I figured this would be a good way for us to get started on Christmas projects for the upcoming Christmas that will soon be 2025. The time goes by so fast. So like this stocking, for example, nothing new and exciting, but it's such a simple, easy project to do. Look at all those strips. This is exactly what I did many, many years ago. I made this stocking. Specifically, this is for my partner, Joe, one of his many stockings for Christmas. All of these scraps that I had left over for other projects, little bits, anything you want to use. Even I had some of this little trim left over from a home deck project, so I added that. Very simple lined cuff. So simple little stocking like this. Now where we can find instructions, for example, ooh, look at that nice little strip stocking here, stitched up stocking. If you go to janome.com, janome.ca, we have the Inspire tab. This is one of the free projects from Janome America maker Joanna Marsh, made this strip stocking, and again, full instructions, step-by-step instructions how to make this string stocking. and really simple. In fact, there's a template there included. So again, lots of free projects. So go on Janome.ca, Janome.com, your respective Janomes around the world, and find a project. And as I called it, a string stocking, again, maybe these are the scraps that you have left over, lots of little cut-offs. It doesn't matter what size scrap. The stocking is always a great way to use up these strings. Oh, hello, Shirley. It's great to see you all. Oh, Gordon Madeline's here. Hello, hello. But yes, strings, speaking of Christmas and strings, there I am with hair. It kind of blends into the Christmas tree. But this is known as a string quilt, and that stocking is a string stocking. All these little bits of fabric, some of this, like the yellow satin, was a garment I made for some costumes in high school. This little floral print was a maternity dress for my sister, who was here when she had just had my niece. This is 33 years ago. Now that I made that very first quilt, very simple, easy string quilt sewn on a foundation of muslin. And you can go to our Janome Life blog and find out more information about string quilts. And this will be an upcoming project I will show on a live on how to get started in quilting, making a very simple, very easy string quilt using all your little leftovers. Or, now that string quilt, again, doesn't have to be Christmas fabric, could be at any time. Or how about this? I thought was such a cute project that I had these leftover half square triangles. And I thought, what should I do with them? And then I just started piecing them together. This would be a great project to help you practice your half square triangle, you know, your two fabrics sewn together here. And what this is, I put it on a bath towel that I got from the discount store, so very inexpensive, or maybe that you have in your linen closet, an old towel that you don't use. I just did this as a backing, and this is going to be an extra mat for the counter. You know, often at Christmas we've got a lot of dishes, dishwashers running like crazy, and we've got sinks full of dishes, and sometimes you know, the china, the silver, the crystal can't all go in the dishwasher, so we got to do it all by hand. This is an extra cloth that you could put down on your countertop, and again with that terry towel underneath to absorb some of the water, to lay some of your dishes on. And it's a great project again for your half square triangles here. Very simple quilting through to hold the layers together. Now I'm going to bind it. Right now it's a raw edge here. I'm going to bind it with some cute, in this case, bias binding that I cut 2-inch strips. I'm going to use the quilt binder attachment to finish this edge. And why I did, you know, I could miter the corners, but to make it faster and easier, I've just rounded off the corners. So that's why it had to be biased, to then stretch around the curve. So again, quilt binder attachment, I'm going to bind this. We could bind it the, you know, sort of French fold traditional way as well. Very simple project, easy to do. So that is an idea. So to do half square triangles, I thought I would just do a quick little review for you all. Now we can do, as a half square triangle is, 2 fabrics joined together that form a square, but again, they're pieced on the diagonal. So as we do our square, again, right here are 2 fabrics joined, and I've drawn with a Sharpie, in this case, just a 45-degree angle. And we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch on either side. So right now we've got many, you know, Janome 1/4 inch presser feet that we could use. In this case here is our regular O foot. This one has a guide on the side. There is an O foot without a guide. So I could use this, or I'm also using my AccuFeed Flex foot with my 1/4 of an inch foot that also has a guide. So we could, or a regular even feed foot, you know, we do have a 1/4 of an inch guide attachment that clips into the back, and then it gives us this fence 1/4 of an inch guide. So in this case, I'm going to use this AccuFeed Flex foot. Now, if your machine has, like in the CM17 here, I have my sewing applications, but all we need is just a straight stitch and we need to move our needle position over from center needle position. In this case, it's 4.5. We just need to move our needle over to, in this case, I'm going to go all the way over. You'll see my line of stitching move all the way over to the right. I'm going to go all the way over to 9.0. Typically, our 1/4 of an inch is set for 9mm machines. It's set to 8.3 as a 1/4 of an inch. I like to move it over just a little more to 9.0 fold when we do that line of stitching and then fold our fabric over. We lose a little in that fold, so that's why I like to make it that 9.0. Now, our regular seam length is 2.4, but we can reduce it to 1.8 is what I personally like to use. It's a little tighter stitch. I don't have to worry about back stitching. Now, again, we can go into the sewing applications mode. We have a dedicated quilting piecing stitch that will adjust the width and length for us. But in this case, again, whatever machine we have, we can always manually adjust it as well. Oh, Sandra Gilmore's here. Hello, hello. So I personally like to do this piecing with this guide, because then I'm going to run the guide on my foot along that line to give me my 1/4 of an inch. So all we have to do is run this along. And again, you won't have a camera in front of you, so your sewing may be a little more accurate than mine. So once I go down one side, and then you'll notice here that I have my pins kept away from me, so I don't have to worry about, pulling my pins out as I go along. So I'm just going to go down one side, and then again, very quickly, I'm go down the other. And when we sew this, we should have our stitching a 1/4 of an inch away from either side, and we put our little seam gauge on here, and is it, again, approximately 1/2 of an inch. Now, in this project for this little mat, it really doesn't matter the accuracy, but I thought this why doing this project would be a good way to help us refine our half-square triangles. If you find your video is breaking up, I'm hoping it's not me. If maybe it's on your end, you go out of Facebook and come back in, and hopefully it's okay. Or if you're again on YouTube, get out of YouTube and reload it again. So hopefully it's better. So then I'm going to cut along where I drew that line. And then we create, there is our half-square triangle. And then this is where I like to make my half-square triangles bigger, because then we need to get rid of this little dog ear, for example. But then if our sewing is a little bit wonky, it's not 100% accurate, we can go in and we take our little, rotary cutting mat and our ruler, and then we can go in and refine this half-square triangle to whatever we need it to be. And we're just going to trim off a little bit of the extra. Now, the ruler, whatever you use, if you can see here, I have a big 45-degree line on my ruler. So then I line up my ruler along my, with the glare of the overhead light, I'm going to line up my 45-degree line against my sewing. And then what it is, I'm going to square these all up to, again, 5.5 inches. So I started, these were ultimately about 6-inch squares, and then I purposely sized them a little bigger so then I can trim them down. So this way it really helps your accuracy of your sewing and your pressing, but make it a little bigger. And then again, I'm going to get in here and just trim, boom, and then trim, boom. So then again, we get rid of the dog ear there. And with our ruler at that 45 degrees, then again, it turns out beautifully. It's a nice sharp corner. So that is a little review of half-square triangles very quickly. Now, the fun thing is, if you have bigger squares of fabric, like this is a big 12-inch square of fabric, you can save time and do, your diagonals here for your whole, these are two 12-inch squares, for example. Do your diagonals, sew 1/4 of an inch on either side. Then you're going to cut down the middle here and the middle here. I've drawn some lines so you can see a little better. Boom, boom. And again, do we see there is my line? There's my 2/4 of an inch on either side. And then here I'm going to trim vertically and horizontally. So then this is 1 half square triangle, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can make 8 half square triangles at once. It works out so well. So this is another way, if you've got bigger pieces of fabric, and they could be any size that you want. That's a fast, easy way to make half square triangles. So, oh, and Cheryl's here. Hello, hello. And happy New Year. Audio breaking up every other word. Oh no, I hope not. Oh geez, I hope it's not on my end. I had this trouble on YouTube. So we'll just persevere and see. If not, I'll have to do another recording. So as we do there as our half square triangles, and then again, we sew them all together in whatever kind of placement you want. I did, you know, red and white and then blue and white. So we can ideally practice seaming them together, and you see how they just form like a diagonal line. So this is the exercise to help you practice your half square triangles, use up all those fabrics. When I backed them onto, again, my mat or my towel that I had from the discount store, I needed just to add this little filler strip here to make it big enough. And then again, right now I just have a raw edge, so I'm going to bind it with a quilt binder. But you know, the towel itself had, I cut it in half. It was a big towel. The towel itself is already bound on 3 sides then. I just cut it in half here. So instead, if you didn't want to bind this, you could ultimately just like fold under this raw edge here of your half square triangles. And you see this is the finished mat. And I could just sew these, you know, down like that and just do like a little top stitching. That would be really easy. So what I'm making is, now you can always review when you come back. If you join in late, you can always go back to review at any time. I'm making some quick and easy projects with leftover, in this case, Christmas fabric. I made all these half square triangles and I put them on a towel, in this case, to make like a mat for drying the dishes, an extra mat for drying the dishes. So that is an option. Or another project, since I love using up all these scraps. And this is a good project too, and same with the stocking. Oh, maybe we've got scraps of batting. All we need is a big zigzag stitch. Any machine can do that pretty much. And join our batting together. And again, lots of blogs on Janome Life blog. This was another, I thought, very simple and easy project to make, that you just use up literally every little scrap of fabric to make these. In this case, these could be coasters. This could be a trivet for your table, but I thought like a little set of coasters. So these are projects that, again, you could do for yourself. Or you could even, you know, hang this from the tree. Or again, you could do these as little gifts, last minute gifts, but now you're making them in January. So you don't have to, or here at the end of December, or you get started and make these in January. So then that way they're done. So you have them all ready for next January. So all these little scraps, oh, this is what I save everything. If it's an 1.5 inch square, I'll save it personally. So what I do with all these little scraps is, again, I decide, okay, I'm going to start, again, piecing them all together. Very simple and easy. And again, we've got a number of Janome 1/4 of an inch presser feet. Now, in this case, for this project, it really doesn't matter what our seam allowance is. We don't have to use a 1/4 of an inch. We could sew this with a 5/8 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch, or not even measure our seam allowance. It really doesn't matter. It's just piecing all of these similar sized squares or shapes together. Now, since this is going to be a coaster though, instead of pressing these seam allowances, typically for quilting, we're pressing to the dark side in one direction. I'm going to press them open here so they lay a little flatter. So what I try to do with my scraps is sew, similarly sized shapes together. Or then when I'm ready to make this a little bigger, then I just take a strip and, okay, yes, it's not quite the same size, no problem. And this is where too, it really doesn't matter that, again, in this case, this edge is not quite straight. I could normally, finagle it a little bit with my pressing, but I'm not going to stress about it. I'm just going to sew along. Now, this is where maybe we don't want to use a foot with a guide, because in this case, I'm not going to follow the edge of my fabric. I'm not going to put the edge of my fabric against that guide. I'm just trying to press that open by hand. I'm not going to worry about, again, I'm just going to follow this straight edge of my upper piece of fabric, in this case, the white. I'm not going to worry about the lower piece of fabric. So in this time, maybe the guide is going to get in your way. So we have, again, alternatives. We have again, this is our regular 9mm O foot, 1/4 of an inch foot with a guide. We have one without a guide, but we also have other feet. In this case, for our AccuFeed Flex foot, well, I could switch back to the regular AD foot, or this is the open toe, the UD foot. So I could use that foot instead, that doesn't have a guide, to get in the way. And then this is where I would take this little bit that I just sewed, and then, again, it really doesn't matter, the seam allowance. And then this is where you could clean it up. You don't have to. Oops. You don't have to, just trim that off, make it a little nicer. You really don't have to, since, again, that I would press this seam allowance open. And then after that, I would trim off this little bit just to make it easier. And then I can add, a bigger piece of fabric. And to think, no, that's not big. Oh, maybe I'll add this piece onto it. And you just keep adding and adding and adding, as I have done here. And this is where, if you want it to be all, square and nice, instead you could, sew it, on an angle. Nobody says that these have to be a straight line. You could, sew your piece even on an angle and, flip it open like that. Like it could look like that. Nobody says it all has to be on an angle. You do whatever you want. It all, I think, depends on the size of your pieces. But yes, I try to, try to square it up and make it look a little easier to sew. Again, everything is, here I pressed to one side, and then I thought, no, I really should press these open, since this is going to be like a coaster and it lays a little flatter. So once you build your shape, then, like this, you take a bigger piece of fabric. Now, this little bit I will throw away, but, sizes like this, oh yes, I save those. Those are treasure. So then, with this, you take your bigger piece of fabric. In this case, it just happens to be, I think about 8 inches. Bigger piece of batting. And again, I just needed a little bit. So I used a zigzag stitch, a long, wide zigzag, to butt these pieces of batting together. They're not overlapped, so they're nice and flat. So a great project to, again, use this little bits of batting. And then once you build your piece big enough here, then you lay up your square up ruler, in which case, I made mine 7 inches. So then I squared up my pieced material here, my piece top, as 7 inches, and then laid it down on top of my backing and my batting. And then now I'm just going to do some very simple quilting just to hold these layers together. So again, I could switch out my foot. We've got, a ditch quilting foot here for the AccuFeed Flex foot. And as a little tip here, I like leaving my foot holder on the machine, and then I remove my foot. It acts as a third hand, and I just slide the foot itself onto the foot holder. So it really makes it easy to switch out there. It's less fiddly. So with this SD foot for the AccuFeed Flex foot, again, I've got this guide down the middle. So I could run, in this case, I have like a seam line here. I could run it down, the guide down my seam line. It's really a ditch quilting foot that my needle's supposed to go in that well of the seam, but I still have my foot or my needle over here to 1/4 of an inch. So this way, if you're worried about ditch quilting and not being so accurate, you could quilt, again, what about 1/4 of an inch away, or it could be 1/2 of an inch away. Then that way you don't have to worry as much if you wobble. So I'm running this guide, this rudder of this ditch quilting foot down my seam, but my needle is still over here to the right. So there I get 1/4 of an inch from that piecing there. And then I just quilt through all layers, holding everything together. It's nice and neat. And then take this, once I'm done quilting, take this and trim off the backing and the batting. So it's all one layer. Then I'm going to remove this. And as usual, time's gone by very fast. But I just thought this was a great, simple, easy thing to do to finish off the edge of this coaster. We're going to install the regular foot holder again and remove the 1/4 inch foot, and I'm going to use, the beading feet. Now there are beading feet if you've got a 5mm or 7mm machine. There are beading feet as well. This one is a wide groove for 9mm. This is a narrow groove for 9mm. And I often suggest you purchase these feet. Again, full instructions in the blister pack, but you purchase these feet and then you take the foot to the craft store and you'll see this is the wide groove. It's got a big groove on the bottom, and you want to make sure, again, will your bead, your string of pearls, or in this case, yarn. I love yarn, but I have no time for taking up knitting and crocheting. My sister does a wonderful job at crocheting and knitting. I can't, do another craft, but I love the yarn. So again, with that foot, look at that. It just passes, no problem. So I love this technique as an alternative to binding. So once I take this, and I will trim very quickly. I will trim this edge once everything is done. Again, normally you would do all your quilting first. And then you follow this edge. Again, make it nice and beautiful. And then you just butt your yarn up against there. You butt your yarn up against it. It makes it so fast and easy. Now, in this case, this beautiful designer yarn, I thought, well, I want it beefier. So I just took 2 strands and very quickly loop them together because I saw that, oh yes, it will indeed fit under. It'll still fit under my foot. So with a wide zigzag, I can get rid of my AccuFeed. I don't need it anymore. And then just with a wide zigzag, again, it could be anything that we choose. Now so again, any machine can do this. This is our multi-step zigzag. It's sometimes called the tricot stitch since it has multiple stitches in that zigzag. There's the regular zigzag, just back and forth. Or again, certain machines here in our fabulous sewing applications mode, like in our CM17, again, we wonder, why do our machines cost so much? Or why would I upgrade? Oh, how about getting sewing applications? It's like the machine is doing some thinking for you. Particularly here in the CM17 and our higher end machines, we have sewing applications, quilting applications, in which case there is where we would find our 1/4 of an inch piecing stitch. And then here, this plus pressure foot. Well, there we have a beading foot sewing application for narrow and wide. So the machine is already set up with some presets, again, showing us there's the L2, the wide groove beading foot. For more information about these feet, for example, you could go on Janome HQ YouTube channel. I did the A to Z with Janome Instagram live series, but I've loaded them all onto YouTube. So yes, they're tall and skinny when viewed on YouTube, but there's demos on how to use all of these pressure feet. So here, this is some presets, but I can say, oh, I want a wider zigzag, and you can do it to whatever you wish. I'll just go. In fact, I think I went all the way up to 9.0 since I've got a 9mm machine. We can make our zigzag longer. Doesn't need to be really as tight. I'll just make it 3.0. So there's a lot. Again, we've got the presets, so it makes it a lot faster and easier. But then we can also refine it later. So in this case, yes, I've got this nice wide zigzag. And again, I just curled up 2 strands of yarn that still fit under the groove of this beading foot. So as I'm doing my zigzag, my right or my left zig is coming into, the needle is coming into the fabric, and then the right zag of the stitch, the zigzag, is going off the edge entirely. It's going around that yarn, which is just helping to scooch that yarn nice and close. Now, when I get to the corner here, I could round the corner off to this coaster as well, or again, this could be a trivet. If we had, that heat-resistant batting in between, this would be a great little trivet that we could make too. So when I do the corner, for example, I just come up here and I'm going to stop. Whenever we're going to pivot a corner, and this is true with applique as well, we're going to stop with the needle to the right-hand side, leave it down in the fabric, and whoops, I wanted to leave my needle there. I wanted to raise my foot, leave the needle down, and raise the foot. And then again, I just tuck that yarn into the corner, tuck that yarn into the corner. There we go. And then away I go. And then I just continue along. And then when I come to the very end, I just cut off my yarn however I need to, cut it off, and then I just tuck in a little bit of those raw edges underneath. Just tuck in the raw edges underneath and do a little zigzag over it. So again, how simple. Now to make it even easier, again, I could round the corners too. But there again, because I cut it off and because I had a wider stitch, in this case 9.0, then it just helped push that yarn there. So I don't see any batting at all. And again, I can't really tell where I began this yarn and where I ended the yarn. So again, it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful finish. And this way, again, perfectly fine. Use it as a coaster, toss these in the washing machine with the yarn. That's going to be completely fine. But that way, it's a very fast, easy gift and a very fast, easy way to finish without worrying about binding. So again, a whirlwind of information just with some little fast, easy projects that you can make. Maybe get a jump start in your gift giving for next Christmas, or again, that you can use these, make these projects out of any fabric, and then that way you've got gifts all year long. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. It's fabulous to see you. I hope you all have a very wonderful, fun, and safe, happy New Year, whatever you end up doing this evening. Just make it very, again, safe and happy. And I certainly hope to see you all next year for some more sewing fun. So thank you everyone so much for joining me. Have a fabulous day. Bye.